This is our first bonus content. David, what are we doing in this?
We're reading a review and talking about it.
Sounds good. And then there's actually two reviews. And with the second one, we have our special guest, Pat Barclay, along with us, which I thought was super fun.
Yeah, Pat's great, and it's a little sneak peek for his episode, which should be coming out soon.
Yep. So everybody enjoy, and we'll see you at our regular Tuesday release in a couple days. And enjoy.
Yep.
We do have a review. Have you read the review?
No.
Can I read it
Ooh,
for you?
please do.
All right, so
Who's it from first?
it's pretty funny. It's somebody named it's okay, it's something called Keiki Solo. All right.
Kiki Solo. Okay.
And it's this is for Apple Podcasts, and
hmm
we have a 4.7 out of 5 ratings, but
That's pretty
I'm
good.
just gonna read this for you.
Okay.
Pretty boring. Giving 4 stars though, so it doesn't tank their ratings.
That was kind of her
Yeah,
or him.
now
I don't know. Kiki is Kiki a boy or
Yeah,
girl?
I'll say that both of the hosts are interesting people who are interested in interesting things. But I
hmm
also have to say that this podcast is incredibly boring. 3
Hmm.
episodes in. This is prior to any guests we've had.
Wow. Well, she made it through 3 episodes.
Yeah, I mean that's
He or
pretty
she.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
That's pretty.
I think
Presumably, we're doing something right.
yeah, I think they need to find a structure and home in on something specific each episode. It can't just be that they are two guys nerding out about Evo Psych.
Well, that is this podcast. I mean,
That
that
will
should be our tagline.
that
Two guys nerding out about Evo Psych. That would be better than our current tagline.
That's really from the mouth of critics. That will
Yeah.
not keep an audience. There
hmm
needs to be some hook to the show, like we tell you, and you're
Hmm.
going to love this.
Yeah.
There needs to be some hook to the show, like we tell you how to apply evolutionary psychology in daily life,
Okay.
or we talk about how evolutionary psychology can help us make sense of something in the world. I kind
Okay.
of feel like we've done that a little bit, but this
A
is my,
bit.
and good
That
Lord,
was
yeah.
it was honestly a good piece of feedback. That was
No,
constructive. It
and,
was a good
and and this
idea.
is
Maybe
prior
we
to
should
when we
do
had
something
any
like that.
guests.
Yeah.
I think I would have probably written something similar to this if I didn't know. Here's the next sentence. And good Lord, Lord is capitalized. Please invite guests on the show.
Oh, well, they will be pleased to
There's
know
a
that
torrent of guests coming up.
many,
Yeah,
many guests.
exactly.
Yeah.
They might regret it. So
Yeah.
far, it feels like I am reading a textbook which is teaching me a bunch of things.
Okay.
Okay.
That's good.
That's
Textbooks are
me.
cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
All
not
right.
telling me why I should care.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. It sort of assumes you care if you're listening, but yeah, maybe
right.
we should tell people
Yeah.
care.
Yeah, and we're on the penultimate paragraph here. So this
Yeah.
doesn't mean it has to be super deep and serious. I like when there's a typo, I'll just skip over. I like when hosts can sort of goof around with each other and be silly.
hmm
We do get better at that.
That's
Um,
true. We do.
what we're doing right now is sort of silly. And then, so
hmm
even making fun of things about the world or political discourse or something would be entertaining.
Okay.
And this I agree with, but steer clear of the culture wars. That's my advice.
Okay. I think we've done a pretty good job of steering clear
Yeah.
of culture war stuff.
Yeah, and then the last thing is rooting for you guys.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah,
Honestly, like that was of all the critical review, that was kind
I
of a lovely
I will
one.
take that. That's a good reviewer
Yeah.
too, right there. Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
where we were at. So yeah, so thank you so much. If anybody else
Yeah.
wants to,
Thank you, Kiki, sincerely.
yeah,
We
for
will, yeah, we will
we
take your feedback seriously.
yeah, and we actually did prior to you even writing that because we had guests on
Yeah,
from
that's
that
true.
point on. Yeah. So, but yeah,
hmm
thank you for. So please leave. So that was all a long-winded way of saying, please leave some reviews and we'll read them.
We will. Yeah, maybe we'll have a segment where we read them on the show.
That sounds great. I love
Okay, so
that.
please, so that's a great incentive for you to write a review because then you'll get to hear us read it.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
yeah,
we're gonna exercise some discretion, but yeah.
hmm
Um,
great. So leave us a review, and visit our Patreon page.
yeah, if you
Support us,
leave a
as they
bad
say.
review, if you leave a bad review, then go to our Patreon page and that's your
Assuage
penance.
your feelings of guilt. Yeah.
Yeah. Or if you leave a good review, go to our Patreon page, and that way you don't experience cognitive dissonance, which
Hmm. Yeah.
Dan
Would
Conroy Beam loves the theory of cognitive dissonance. No,
I
he
do
doesn't.
too. It's a really powerful
Yes.
theory that
Yeah. Explains everything and predicts
I think
everything.
all of psychology and the social sciences in general should be subsumed by cognitive dissonance theory.
You,
I think it should be the overarching theory for all of humanity.
cool.
Cognitive dissonance theory.
Cognitive dissonance, the podcast.
I mean, banger.
This thing, this thing writes itself.
I know. We
um.
could even have some dissonant music
Oh,
going in the
nice.
intro,
Wow. That's yeah. Or not, and then we can
or
just sort
not.
of explain that away by
Hmm.
I mean, the history of that is that I think there were people who were in doomsday cults, and the people who, the next day after the end of the world was predicted, it was like the study of like how do they justify that. So it's not a
Right.
crazy idea, but no.
No, no, yeah, but the best way to understand that is in terms of analogizing the human mind to an orchestra
Yes,
and a belief that makes you feel uncomfortable as a dissonant note.
right.
Um,
Yeah.
Maybe not the most perspicuous way of understanding the cognition behind doomsday cults,
Right. Or the
I would
idea that
say.
people can't hold two conflicting ideas at once and have a problem with that is, I would say, possibly naive, bordering on dangerous view of human nature, given the history of political and alliance-based machinations in the world.
Yes, could not agree more with that. Wow, Dave, I can't believe we're going here.
Yeah.
This is a
Well,
really long outro.
this might be a short bonus moment
We'll
here. What
we'll see if
where
Naomi edits this or not, or if she
yeah.
has the gall to keep all of it.
Yeah. But maybe we can just have it as a bonus, reread our reviews.
Yeah.
So David, good to see you.
Good to see you too.
So this is a sort of special bonus thing. Does my mic sound okay? I'm
Sounds
all
good to me.
okay. I'm all worried about it. Okay. So David, we have a second review on Apple Podcasts, and we have
Ooh.
our interviewee with us, Pat Barclay. Pat, do you want to say hi?
Hi, thanks
Um,
for having me on.
you're welcome. And so we're going to release your episode probably later than this particular part's coming out, but we're going to read this second review. Okay, so David and I read our first review, and now we're going to read our second one. So David and Pat, are you guys ready?
Mhm.
Yep.
Okay. So the one thing to say is although it's our second review, it's actually by the same person who left the first
Whoa.
review. They actually took the first review down,
Oh,
which was in response to our first three episodes,
okay.
which was prior to us having any guests.
Got it.
And one of the bottom line things they said was you should really have guests on.
Got it.
So
Okay.
subsequently, we've had guests on,
Interesting. So this is
and
Kiki. This
this
is
is Kiki So
okay.
Solo. Okay, and this is a
Okay. I
shorter.
all right.
Yeah,
Cool.
I think it's Khaki. So it's really
Khaki.
hard to read. It's
Okay.
really hard to enunciate. I mean, I have hard enough trouble enunciating normal words. It's hard to enunciate
Hmm.
usernames or screen names. So okay.
Okay.
Again, 4 out of 5 stars. Okay, the title of this review is Skip 40 Minutes.
Hmm.
Okay, every
Okay.
episode, and Pat, we're going to sort of preview this for you. You're going to be spoiler alert. Every episode, they spend about 40 minutes going on the life journey of each guest, most of whom the audience does not know. Intros for guests should either be absent or like 3 minutes.
Hmm. Okay.
Okay.
Sound
That's
Seems
good?
unfortunate because
constructive.
I
Yeah.
planned a 40-minute spiel
I
on
know.
exactly how I got to where I am, and
We're,
now
we're
I've got to scrap it.
we're going to,
Yeah.
if you can do it in 3 minutes, but otherwise no. I mean, I take the point, but well, I don't. I'll read the rest, and then we can maybe talk
Okay.
about it. Because in Pat, I also, we're biased, but you're a fairly objective third party, even though you know us. So maybe you can give some thoughts about this. Okay, so there's just 2 paragraphs. That was the first one. The second one is they should also practice holding the audience's hand throughout the conversation, rather than just name dropping and jargon dropping. I don't disagree with that.
Yeah.
Also,
No,
for
that's a
podcasts,
good note.
it's better to talk less about the research and more about the implications.
Hmm.
I don't, unless it is a dedication article / lit review.
Okay.
I,
I mean, it's more or less the same sort of general note as the previous one. Talk more about the implications, avoid the boring stuff about,
About
academic
Pat's
journeys,
life.
Pat's life. Yeah.
Sorry,
It's a
Pat.
boring life, you know.
No, I'm sure that's not true.
No, I mean, I think that's fair. I mean, we're probably more interested to learn about the origin stories of
Each
people we
other.
respect and admire in the field
Yeah.
than probably the average person is.
Yeah.
Um,
What do you think, Pat?
I can understand wanting to keep the personal stories, you know, not from being too long. Like a short overview, somebody might have a fun anecdote or two. Um, you know, I can agree with a bit about you know, dropping like names and
mhm.
jargon.
Yeah.
I mean, I enjoyed it. You know, when you can mention that, but I'm in the field, right? I know
Right.
these
Yeah.
Yeah,
names.
yeah,
I
yeah.
know the
Okay.
ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it depends on who you're speaking to. If you're trying to speak to people outside the field, then the more that you can do to bring people on board helps. As for the question about do you want to talk about the implications or about the research itself, uh, I might disagree with that review on that one. I mean, because you know, to hear about the research, that's the fascinating part, and you
Hmm.
can't talk about implications unless you talk about the research first to make sure
Hmm.
that both the ideas are clear, but also
Right.
to have a good idea. Well, how strong is that conclusion? What evidence is that based on? And
Hmm.
you know, if it's one study and you realize, oh, okay, that's based on you know one particular study, to what extent do we want to dictate national policy based on one study?
Yeah.
Well, maybe this is more of an idea of something we might want to follow up on.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree that there is an overeagerness to apply the meager insights from our shoddy research to policy, to the world, to overstate their
Present
implications.
company.
For better or
Yeah.
for worse, right?
For better or for
On
worse,
either
yeah.
side of the
Yeah.
political spectrum. Yeah.
I think we ought to humble ourselves more. But, I do take the point that if you're a general listener who's not in our weird field, you want to know why this matters. And of course, it's good to get to the research and state the evidence clearly and all that. But also, if someone's listening outside of this field, they want to know what's in it for them, why they should care. And we should spend some time talking about that. I think that's a
Yep.
valid
Yeah.
Yep. That's
Yeah.
fair.
point.
I don't want to spend too much time navel gazing, and we'll start the Pat episode in a second. But the Pat, thanks for being with us. I also want to say, like, I think that I have two thoughts. One is, well, yeah, I mean, I agree with what the reviewer is saying to some degree, but I also agree with Pat that I disagree. It's very confusing. I shouldn't have said that. But one thing is the people who are typically out there presenting themselves as representing evolutionary psychology are not the people that we often recognize as people actually doing the work. And Pat is
Mhm.
like a lovely example of somebody who I think is doing, has done so much of the backbone work on cooperation and solving the puzzles of cooperation. And so one of the reasons to introduce people is to actually like introduce the people, because like how are you going to get to know them if you don't hear something about them? So I agree that maybe we can cut it down from like an hour to like 40 minutes, but I don't think it should just be like 3 minutes. And there's just different
Yeah.
ways to do it.
Yeah, there's a middle ground there.
Yeah.
And certainly we've been we're trying to get better at, defining jargon and making sure that,
Yeah.
stuff is,
We've
properly
gotten better.
accessible.
Yeah, it's
We've
just
gotten better at it.
these are the early days. So, but
Yeah.
yeah, no, for sure. And when we have our guests on, we're trying to sort of hang on. What does this mean? But you can also
Mhm.
look things up too. So and I do
Yeah.
think there is a problem with sort of over hand holding to the point of
Mhm.
Yes.
sort of exactly as Pat said, exploiting. So I think there's a problem of sort of I tell my kids in my classes that like be careful of like high production value things. Like I always tell them
Yeah.
if somebody came up to you who's very attractive, well dressed, and they say, "Hey, do you have a moment? Can I have a moment of your time?" What do you immediately think? They're
What are you
trying to
selling?
they're selling you something, right? And so
Mhm.
this is just falls out of signaling where like if the things that are in your interest are not going to be things that come at you loud or that spend a lot of effort on on you. So like be careful of high production value stuff, right? And
Mhm.
be careful of things people are trying to sell you stuff. And in this context, like, it's 100% the case that we're not always talking about the implications or why you should care. And maybe we can spend more time doing that. But that's also something for you to think about.
Mhm.
And our job is to sort of be careful about the science, And I think there's too much stuff that doesn't understand the science and just is trying to sell you
Mm.
an implication that doesn't even
Yeah,
fall out. And
sure.
so it makes sense that these are issues. And I think this person's also probably coming from a place where if you've been fed implications and interest to
Hmm.
the point where it's actually even problematic, then it feels sort of like you're getting something you're not expecting.
Yeah. No, I totally buy all that. But I would say that, that point itself is an implication that should matter to a general audience, that it's good to, avoid being manipulated by people who are exploiting, one shoddy study and overstating its implications, that this is a thing we should all be conscious of as consumers of information. So that is potentially relevant and interesting to people that aren't in our field.
That's right. Wear red and be confident, 100%.
Mhm.
If you wear
Yep.
red, you'll be more confident. So wear red and you'll get the job
Hmm.
and the mate you want, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that kind of stuff will, yeah, try to avoid that.
Cool.
Okay. Thank you, Pat, for being along for this. Do you have a final thought, Pat?
No, I guess I'm ready to ready to get going.
All right.
Also,
Sounds good.
thank you to Kiki
Yeah.
sincerely. No,
Yes. It's
I thought.
for, yeah, we really do care about these reviews and take them seriously. And please, if you have other comments, please let us know and we will
Mhm.
try to incorporate them as much as possible. Um, and read them again while practicing discretion. So thank you again, and yeah, we'll see you, Pat, in a moment. Okay.